Okay, I'm Fatima A. Almeida, and I go by my nickname Bing. I'm currently a trainer and local solutions specialist in the program office of USAID Philippines. I'm also the point of contact for the FAN, or our Financial Analysis Network, and the FAN website. What else?
And what have you done at AID so far?
Well, I've been with USAID for more than 25 years, and in most of those years, I've been with the FM office, doing training, capacity development to some degree, and I've also worked as a deputy controller for 1 year in USAID Nepal.
Great. I think that's fine. So in terms of local solutions, what types of things have you been doing in local solutions? Government to government, supporting local actors and improving their management?
Well, as part of the local solutions, USAID Philippines was actually one of the first pilot missions under USAID Forward when USAID Forward was launched in 2010. And so I was part of that team, local solutions team, on non-G2G activities.
Good. All right. Well, those aren't necessarily questions in the main list, but they're definitely ones we'll come back to because they're really interesting. And you have experience in the Philippines. You might want to think about that. What are some of the challenges in dealing with local Philippines institutions? I mean, a lot of controllers and FM people are dealing with contracts and grants, but with the broader world out there, how does that change the nature of your job? How does it change the nature of the relationship?
I have become more involved in networking with local organizations towards improving their capacity, strengthening their systems, and working towards, well, I'm lost.
No, that's fine. That's fine. So now let's just, in order to begin, why don't you just, I'm not going to ask you a question, I'll just ask you to just say your name, where you've been, where you've been posted, what you're doing, what's been your career so far.
Okay. I am Fatima A. Almeida. I'm also known by my nickname Bing. I'm currently a trainer and local solutions specialist in the program office of USAID Philippines. I also act as the point of contact for the Financial Analyst Network, which we call the FAN, and the FAN website. And I'm also, well, I've been with the mission for more than 25 years. And in most of those years, I've worked in the FM office, first as a financial analyst, then as a supervisory financial analyst. And in 2001 and 2002, I served as deputy controller in USAID Nepal.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about your function then in the program office.
Well, as a trainer and local solutions specialist in the program office of USAID Philippines, I get involved throughout the program life cycle of the agency, from CDCS stage to closeout, and even up to the CLA stage. And during that stage, I would
Okay. You're talking about CLA, you're talking about program design. What are the aspects that you get involved in? For instance, if it's going to be government to government, what are the types of things you worry about?
So at the design stage, for example, where we look at possible G2G assistance, then what we'll do, or what I'm involved in, is to determine whether pre-award surveys, or what we call the PFM RAF stage 1 or stage 2, will be needed. So I help determine whether at that stage PFM RAF stage 1 or stage 2 will be appropriate and necessary during the design stage.
And then during implementation, be interested in your relationship both within the program office, what's your function during implementation, but also what's your relationship with the technical offices?
During the implementation stage, when the projects or activities are being designed, I would get involved in helping the team determine what will be the types of implementing or financing mechanisms to use. And that role I was particularly and heavily involved in when I was still in the program in the FM office. Although in the program office where I am now, my role will be to make sure that the local systems thinking is incorporated into the PDPs, how sustainability and ownership get incorporated into the design, and also during the even during the design stage, I would also make sure that financial analysis, if needed, is going to be necessary, although it's not a required analysis.
Let's go back a little bit in time. You talked before you had joined the program office and worked on local systems, local solutions issues. You had been involved in FM, in a normal financial management world. Tell me a little bit about what that world was like, what your job was like then, and types of work that you would do on a day-to-day basis.
Being in FM required me to be on top of pre-award surveys, which were often requested by our agreements office to be conducted on prospective local organizations. And in that capacity, I would lead the pre-award surveys, the teams that are involved in those due diligence tests. And that would also require the local organizations to come up with their corrective action plans on certain weaknesses and findings that we would note during our surveys. And so in that capacity, we would, and I would make sure, I made sure that all the corrective actions being planned are implemented to strengthen and to bring up to standards those local organizations which we find to be weak.
So that actually is a really interesting comparison to the work in the program office with local systems and local actors. You're obviously bringing some of the skills you developed in FM, but what are you doing now differently? What's your relationship with partners now in this world of local solutions?
While I was in FM and heavily involved during the activity and project implementation stages, now in the program office, I am more involved into the design stage and also into the evaluation stage. And having been with FM and transitioning into the program office created a different kind of perspective in terms of looking at a much larger picture, broader picture, different lens now. So it's more of looking at the picture from start to finish, not just looking at one aspect of the cycle, which is implementation. So I'm more towards design, including implementation and closeout, out to closeout.
That makes a lot of sense. Let me now talk a little bit about your interaction with technical teams.
Okay.
And again, if you want to, you can talk about both of your roles. What is your role now with technical teams out of the program office?
As a local solutions specialist, well, I deal with the development or operations specialists in each of the technical offices. These development program specialists are assigned specific tasks to coordinate with in terms of pipeline, other local solutions matters that would contribute to the posting of indicators. I'm making this up, so I'm not really. So.
Now let's talk a little bit about your relationship with technical offices. First of all, when you're in the program office, the job you have now working on local solutions, local systems issues, what has been your role with technical offices?
Okay, one of the things I was requested to do as a local solutions specialist of USAID Philippines is to provide some orientation and a brief background of what USAID Forward and local solutions are all about. Because not all or not everyone in the mission really understood what USAID Forward and local solutions are and what those two initiatives entail. And so part of my role is to provide an orientation and training to these technical offices so they understand clearly what is expected of them, and when the reporting time comes for PPR, for example, they will be able to readily gather information and provide data that would support our PPR.
So in terms of, again, working with technical offices, when you were in an FM job, working in an FM office, what was your relationship with a technical office?
The relationship that I had with technical offices while I was in FM was more towards providing them with FM support services that would involve pre-award surveys, and also working on audit findings and resolving those audit findings, providing training to local implementing partners as well as US-based implementing partners on FM matters as well as on local solutions as an entire topic itself.
So what are the types of questions you get asked from technical officers?
From technical officers when they are designing a project and about to award an activity. Sorry.
No worries. No, it's fine. Do it again.
Okay.
So what are the types of questions that technical officers ask you?
First of all are due diligence tests necessary? And this due diligence test could be in the form of pre-award surveys or risk assessments for G2G as well as non-G2G activities. And if they are, what would be required of them to facilitate the due diligence test? Another question would be, how can we strengthen the capacity of these local organizations? Would you be willing to help us or even facilitate self-assessments that would improve upon their current capacity? And is the sustainability analysis fully addressed in our design document? Those are types of things that I often am asked about.
So it's interesting, you're talking about the role of controllers and FM staff on this question of strengthening partners. I think one of the things that's happened over the years in aid is the emphasis is not just on did the bridge get built, but that the partners involved with the bridge, are they stronger? Mm-hmm. So you talk a little bit about your role and how important that is? Okay.
Before the award even gets issued, we do the pre-award survey. And from the pre-award survey would arise certain recommendations to improve their systems, procedures, policies, for example. And so during the implementation stage, one of the things that partners would be interested in is to determine whether they're performing well. And one of the tools that the agency has designed to measure performance or capacity of implementing partners is what we call the organizational capacity tool. And there are other tools available right now, like the OPI or the Organizational Performance Index. And so even while they are implementing the awards, most partners would request me to facilitate organizational capacity assessments, and I would do that for them. And that would entail a lot of commitment on their part, and this also determines the commitment and the okay. And this
That's
is
okay. They can cut it. Don't worry.
okay. And so where am I?
But it requires commitment on their part.
Commitment on their part to improve their operations, systems, and procedures. I do not conduct or facilitate organizational capacity assessments by myself, initiating the process. It has, because OCA has to be an endogenous process. You cannot help somebody who doesn't want to be helped. So it is something that they themselves initiate and want to happen.
So it's interesting, your role in terms of not just seeing that the work gets done, but the organization is stronger that's doing the work. I would think as an FSN, this would provide a lot of satisfaction for you, a sense that the organizations and entities within your country are actually being improved, not just that roads are getting built.
That's correct. I get a lot of satisfaction from the work that I do now, being able to work for and with local organizations, seeing them improve. When you do the pre-award surveys, you would see a big organization. And then after the award is completed, they come to you and say, thank you for the help that you provided us. You've been very helpful. We've come this far because of the facilitation work that you've done, and that gives a lot of satisfaction.
Now this leads to training. This implies then that your FM staff, your technical staff, your people in the program office need to have facilitation skills, not just accounting skills. And so could you tell a little bit about what you're doing on the training side?
In terms of training, what I do is when an organization looks for or seeks for assistance, what I'll do is talk to them, see what their needs are, what training they want to be conducted on them, what topics. And so I sit with them, work on the topics, and design a course for them, and then deliver the same course with them also participating. So they have some ownership in it as well. And it's not just me delivering it, it's more of like interacting with them, being with them and seeing what else needs to be done to get their jobs.
So in terms of training, what are the types of training that you do in the Philippines?
As a trainer, I develop, organize, and conduct trainings dealing with financial management and local solutions for the USAID Philippines mission as well as its client missions. And that includes, of course, our implementing partners. And as a trainer for CFO, I'm a lead trainer for 4 of those courses, namely Financial Analysis Basic and Advanced, Audit Management, and Training of Trainers. So these courses we develop ourselves and we continue to improve upon and conduct worldwide.
So tell me a little bit also about the website that you developed, the FAN website. What is that? What does it stand for and what is its function?
So I mentioned earlier that I'm a point of contact for the FAN, which stands for Financial Analysis Network, and also the FAN website. So these are 2 initiatives that I conceptualized way back in 2001, and we initially launched them in 2008. Now we have over 460 members in our group, and the idea here is for this to become effective venues for sharing of valuable information, discussing interesting topics that deal with the work that we do in USAID to help us become more effective and efficient development professionals.
And it's across many countries, not just Philippines.
Yes, it is hosted by and sponsored by MCFO, and it is managed and maintained by USAID Philippines. So the members are from almost 100 countries worldwide.
It's cool.
Yeah.
And so basically it's like a community of practice of people in the FM.
That's right. So the FAN website would have one of its contents, best practices. So whenever people would look for examples or best practices to emulate, they could always go to our FAN and look for that link on best practices.
Excellent. So let's say for the sake of argument that somebody in the room, one of the trainees, is going to come out to the USAID Philippines and be working with you in the program office, or maybe working with you in your previous job in FM. What would the types of things you tell them that they should be aware of, that they should think about, that they should take into their job?
Well, first, treat your job as a journey, like a journey. And like any other journey, there could be bumps and turns along the way. So it is important that you become flexible and adaptive. And the other one is,
So that's fine.
okay, understanding.
Yeah.
So understanding your role is a first step. You have to know what your role is, and then also be able to adjust as you carry out your role in the most effective and efficient way possible. And recognize that there are challenges which you can then turn into opportunities. The important thing here is for you to be able to adjust and turn those challenges. I am repeating myself.
Don't worry about it. You talked about the outlook people need to have to do this job, to be always prepared for change and adaptation. And it struck me that earlier you mentioned, in fact, you've evolved from being an FM to program office focusing on local solutions. How does that relate then to being adaptable?
Well, my outlook has always been like this: treat your job as a journey. And like any other journey, there could always be bumps or turns along the way. So it's important that you become flexible and adaptive. My role is what it is now because of that outlook, from being just in the FM office to becoming a local solution specialist in the program office. I get to see the bigger picture now, and all because I recognize that there were bumps, challenges along the way, but I turned those into opportunities. And this is why my advice would always be to be flexible and adaptive and work with others.
That's excellent.
I think that's great.